beat me. If they could beat me, they would have went to the polls. But now when I bring the people out, you don't let them in?
We're not your damn subjects. We are your bosses. We are the citizens of Dalton. And you will not...
Tiffany Henyard, the self-proclaimed super mayor, is now witnessing the rapid collapse of her political empire in real time. It's a spectacle that's capturing public attention like never before. Known for her dramatic flair and penchant for controversy, Henyard has dominated headlines over the years. However, after a series of high-profile failures and mounting public outrage, her once firm grip on power is slipping away. To those following her saga, it now resembles something straight out of a Netflix drama, complete with political infighting, personal vendettas, and a kind of theatricality only Henyard herself can bring. In her desperate attempts to maintain power, Henyard has been juggling her duties as the mayor of Dalton while simultaneously trying to hold on to her position as supervisor of Thornton Township. But her political career has become mired in chaos, primarily due to a Democratic caucus that escalated her downfall. Henyard's re-election bid for supervisor ended in defeat, and that loss marked the beginning of the end for her political aspirations. The entire situation has unfolded like a slow-motion car crash, with Henyard clinging to power, even as those around her increasingly question her judgment and leadership. The controversy began with Henyard's controversial dual role as both mayor of Dalton and supervisor of Thornton Township, positions that many found ethically questionable. The strain of managing two significant political offices at once seemed to take its toll, leading to increasing tension and dissatisfaction within local government circles and among voters. When the Democratic caucus descended into chaos, Henyard's grip on both positions began to weaken. Her opponents saw the opening they needed and seized it, pushing her further into a corner. Her bid for re-election as supervisor was met with defeat, and with the political winds shifting against her, Henyard's once unshakable confidence now seems to be eroding. What was once a glittering political career, built on bombastic promises and bold moves, has become a cautionary tale of hubris and overreach. As her attempts to stay in the spotlight grow increasingly desperate, Henyard's public disputes, new scandals, and failed comebacks only serve to deepen her fall from grace. The public is watching as her empire crumbles, and it's becoming clear that her chances of making a political comeback are slimmer by the day. The once powerful super mayor may soon fade into political obscurity, her fate sealed by her own arrogance and the unraveling of her control over power. As Henyard's political drama continues to unfold, it's clear that her fall from grace will be remembered for years to come. The key question remains, can she mount a comeback, or has her political career already reached its bitter end? For now, the political world is watching with bated breath, eager to see whether Henyard can hold on to the remnants of her power, or whether she'll completely fade from the scene. In a particularly dramatic turn of events, Henyard stormed out in a fit of rage when she discovered that her name was not included on the ballot. It was clear that her political dreams were unraveling in real time. She didn't take her exclusion well, bending loudly to anyone who would listen and making her displeasure known at every turn. The scene was chaotic, with the crowd growing increasingly frustrated, shouting at her to kiss them goodbye and demanding she leave. Henyard's dramatic exit was a far cry from the raid. Dignified behavior one might expect from a seasoned politician. But it wasn't just her angry outbursts that had people talking. It was the circumstances surrounding her expulsion that added even more fuel to the fire. The core of the issue lay in a set of long-forgotten caucus rules that hadn't been enforced. In over 30 years, these rules ultimately disqualified Henyard's slate of candidates from even being considered. According to the outdated rules, in order to qualify for the ballot, A full slate of 8 candidates was required to cover various township positions, including the supervisor, trustees, the highway director, the clerk, and the assessor. The problem for Henyard was that her slate was incomplete. Without a certified assessor on her team, her candidacy was rendered invalid, and her hopes for re-election were dashed in an instant. As Henyard's supporters fumed and protested, hoping for a different outcome, the man behind her political downfall was none other than State Senator Napoleon Harris. Harris, who also served as a Democratic committeeman for Thornton Township, stepped in to ensure that the caucus rules were enforced. His swift actions not only secured his own victory as the Democratic nominee for supervisor, but also ensured that Henyard's slate was disqualified, effectively knocking her out of the race. To Henyard and her supporters, Harris's involvement appeared to be much more than a simple enforcement of party rules. It seemed like a calculated power play aimed at undermining Henyard's candidacy and forcing her out of the race. From their perspective, Harris used his position to sideline Henyard and make way for his own political aspirations. This move left Henyard's camp feeling betrayed, outraged, and convinced that Harris had engaged in something akin to a political power grab. As the tension between Henyard's supporters and Harris escalated, it became clear that this wasn't just a case of following rules. It was a battle over egos and careers. For Henyard, the loss wasn't just a political defeat. It was a blow to her pride and a crushing blow to her political career. She was determined to fight back, even if it meant going up against her own party. For Harris, securing the Democratic nomination for supervisor was a sweet victory, but it came at the expense of further division within the party. Whether Henyard's claims of unfair tactics and unlawful actions will hold any weight, or whether Harris's maneuver will be seen as necessary to protect the integrity of the system, remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: this political drama is far from over. The stage is set not just for a fight over who will lead Thornton Township, but for a larger battle over the future of party politics in the region. As Henyard's fury boiled over and Harris solidified his position, the stakes in this increasingly bitter political showdown couldn't have been higher. It was no longer just about who would win the supervisor's seat. It was about the power struggle that would define the future of Thornton Township, and possibly beyond. Will Henyard's claims of being unfairly targeted gain traction? Will Harris emerge victorious as the new face of the party? Only time will tell. But, for now, the political showdown in Thornton Township promises to be one for the history books, filled with all the drama, scandal, and high stakes that could fuel any political thriller. As Tiffany Henyard's political empire continues to unravel, there's no doubt that her fall from grace will remain a key chapter in local political history. The chaotic series of events, filled with power struggles, backstabbing, and broken alliances, has the elements of a classic political drama. And as this saga continues to unfold, there's no telling what new twists and turns will emerge in the coming days. For now, all we can do is sit back and watch the next chapter in this ever-dramatic political downfall, where the stakes are high and the outcome is anything but certain.
So that's all it took for Tiffany Henyard to be out as the Democratic nominee for Thornton Township supervisor, and she left here.
Tiffany Henyard, the self-styled drama queen, made it clear she wasn't going to let her political downfall happen quietly behind closed doors. As the heat of her loss grew, Henyard accused State Senator Napoleon Harris of using unfair tactics to block her from the race. She claimed the entire caucus procedure was a deliberate attempt to stifle her candidacy, alleging that it wasn't just a political inconvenience, but an act of voter suppression. According to Tiffany, many of her supporters, whom she had arranged transportation for via township buses, were unable to attend the crucial caucus meeting because the buses arrived late. In her eyes, this wasn't an accident. It was a carefully planned effort to disenfranchise her base. Her anger reached a boiling point, and she wasn't shy about expressing it. In a private conversation, Tiffany vowed, "Tomorrow, I shall be suing everyone involved." To her, the violation of her supporters' rights wasn't a minor setback. It was a major injustice, one she was prepared to fight tooth and nail. The absurdity of the situation was not lost on her. While her supporters were left stranded outside, unable to participate, the meeting continued without them. The buses had reportedly arrived too late, causing frustration and confusion. Tiffany saw this not as a simple oversight, but as a deliberate attempt to thwart her political career. The image of her supporters waiting in vain outside while the caucus went on without them added a layer of irony and chaos to the already tense situation. Tiffany, ever ready to seize the spotlight, painted herself as a victim in this power struggle, calling the events a textbook example of voter suppression. Her claims were explosive and bold, an attempt to reframe the narrative around her loss. For Tiffany, this wasn't just a lost election. It was a fight for justice, a battle against forces trying to prevent her from serving the people. However, many of Tiffany's detractors weren't buying it. They viewed her claims as just another one of her theatrical moves, a desperate attempt to discredit those who had effectively ended her political career in Thornton Township. The real question became whether Tiffany's legal threats would gain any traction or if this was just another public spectacle, one she had long mastered. As ITD, Tiffany readied her lawsuit and took to the media to voice her grievances. Her supporters began to question the sincerity of her actions. Had they really been subjected to a coordinated effort to silence them? Or was this just another chapter in Tiffany's long history of political theatrics? Regardless, the drama surrounding her wasn't going anywhere. Tiffany, never one to shy away from the spotlight, seemed determined to make sure her political drama played out on her terms. Whether through legal action or keeping the media focused on her victimization, she wasn't about to fade into the background. The whole scenario had all the makings of a political thriller: a bitter power struggle, accusations of voter suppression, and a self-proclaimed leader unwilling to go down without a fight. As the fallout from the caucus continued to unfold, one thing became clear: Tiffany Henyard's political saga was far from over, and she wasn't going down without making a scene.
If you don't get the Democratic Party's nomination.
What do you mean? I will be victorious tonight. You will see. My people are here. And
Tiffany Henyard's political saga has now become a public spectacle of controversy, scandal, and defiance. As the Democratic nominee for Thornton Township Supervisor, State Senator Napoleon Harris had already pre-registered and organized his campaign well in advance, giving him a significant upper hand. For Henyard, it became increasingly clear that Harris had effectively secured the position, leaving her with one final option: to run as a write-in candidate. The odds were not in her favor, and Henyard knew it, but she wasn't prepared to give up without a fight. "I will be victorious tonight, you will see," she declared confidently. "My people are here, and they're not going anywhere." However, while her words may have seemed triumphant, the reality was far bleaker. Her political career, once marked by bold promises and ambitious moves, was unraveling. Henyard's tenure, as both the mayor of Dalton and supervisor of Thornton Township, had been marred by scandal after scandal, from allegations of mismanaged public funds to questionable personal indulgences. One of the most damning reports accused her of spending over $443,000 in a single day on Amazon, a mind-boggling amount that many viewed as emblematic of her extravagant mismanagement of public money. To make matters worse, Henyard's Cancer Foundation had been shut down after failing to disclose how it spent its donations, adding yet another layer of controversy to her already tarnished reputation. Worse still, It was reported that the FBI had been investigating her administration for months, digging into potential abuses of power and financial misconduct. Despite all of this, Henyard had managed to avoid serious legal consequences up to that point, but the mounting scandals were starting to take their toll. The final blow came when the buses she arranged for her supporters arrived late, preventing many from participating in the caucus. Instead of acknowledging her mistakes, Henyard reacted as if she had won the lottery, showing no accountability for the chaos that had unfolded. To her most vocal critics, this response only reinforced her image as someone who thrived on conflict and controversy, traits that had made her a polarizing figure. Her dramatic outbursts, such as the infamous village board meeting where she boldly declared, "Like it or not, I am your mayor," only served to cement this image. Locals began to compare her to over-the-top reality TV villains, entertaining to some, but ultimately destructive to those around her. Her combative demeanor and refusal to back down alienated political allies, further diminishing her chances in the caucus. As the day of reckoning arrived, Henyard's supporters appeared increasingly divided. Some rallied behind her, while others began to question her leadership. For many, her dramatic approach to politics had become a double-edged sword. While some admired her tenacity, others saw her as more focused on maintaining power than actually serving the people. The caucus, which had once been a straightforward political contest, had turned into yet another chapter in her long history of controversies. Her extravagant spending, refusal to take responsibility for her actions, and combative attitude had all contributed to a political downfall that many viewed as long overdue. The fact that she had failed to secure the Democratic nomination, despite her bold declarations, spoke volumes about her dwindling support. The caucus had exposed a harsh truth. Tiffany Henyard was no longer the unstoppable force she once believed herself to be. Her loss was a turning point, marking the beginning of the end for her political career. With mounting financial troubles, legal investigations, and dwindling public support, Henyard was left isolated, with few allies willing to back her. The drama surrounding her was far from over, but it had become increasingly clear that her reign in Thornton Township was rapidly coming to an end. Henyard's extravagant spending, particularly the $443,000 Amazon spree, stood in stark contrast to the financial struggles of Dalton's residents, where the median household income was around $44,000 a year. Many saw this as a reflection of the excesses and mismanagement under her leadership, further alienating her from the public. Her attempt to implement a 100% property tax refund for Dalton residents, though seemingly generous, was widely perceived as a politically motivated move, raising suspicions about her true intentions. In a stunning twist, it only took 10 minutes for Tiffany Henyard to be ousted as the Democratic nominee for Thornton Township Supervisor, leaving her visibly upset. But her troubles didn't end there. Business owners in Dalton began coming forward with serious accusations of political retribution, claiming Henyard used her power to punish those who disagreed with her policies. One local pub owner recounted how police raided their establishment after refusing to support one of Henyard's events. These accusations painted a troubling picture of a leader willing to compromise her integrity and the public trust to maintain her grip on power. Despite her growing list of controversies, Henyard remained defiant. She discussed potential legal action to challenge the caucus results, claiming the process was manipulated against her. This wasn't the first time she had pushed back against political processes that didn't go in her favor, and she remained confident that her name recognition and loyal supporters would carry her through a write-in campaign. But running as a write-in candidate is notoriously difficult, and Henyard was now up against a well-organized, well-funded political machine led by Harris, who had secured the full backing of the Democratic Party. Despite her unwavering confidence, Henyard was at a significant disadvantage. With legal troubles, growing public discontent, and a weakening political base, Henyard's path to victory seemed increasingly improbable. Her fierce determination and political savvy might still be assets, but the challenges in front of her were formidable. Whether she could salvage her career, or whether this marked the final chapter of her political empire, remained to be seen. One thing was clear: Tiffany Henyard was in for the fight of her life, but whether she would emerge victorious or be relegated to local political history was uncertain. As investigations into her financial conduct and leadership practices continue, and her political power continues to fade, the question remains: can Tiffany Henyard make a comeback, or is this truly the beginning of the end for her career? Time will tell, but for now, her grip on power grows weaker by the day. The political crisis surrounding Tiffany Henyard has reached a breaking point, and it's clear that her once solid grip on power is now slipping fast. The loss of support from key allies, including the ousting of Chief Jason House and his bid for mayor, has intensified the pressure on Henyard. As the mayor of Dalton, she has also seen her administration suffer due to instability within the police department, with a staggering 82% of officers expressing dissatisfaction, a damning report card on her leadership. Despite these mounting challenges, Henyard's public bravado remains unchanged. Drawing comparisons to Donald Trump's rise in politics, she continues to claim that she will emerge victorious, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. However, her unwavering confidence is at odds with the increasingly serious issues surrounding her leadership. One of the most pressing problems Henyard faces is a financial mess that is threatening to sink both her political career and the community she leads. Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was brought in to investigate Dalton's finances, and the findings were nothing short of damning. The village's general fund balance dropped dramatically from a surplus of over $5 million in 2022 to a deficit of nearly $4 million by 2024. In addition, Lightfoot uncovered that Henyard had used a village credit card for personal expenses, including purchases from Target, Walgreens, and Wayfair. This revelation added to the growing perception that Henyard had misused public funds, deepening public dissatisfaction and calls for her removal from office. Meanwhile, Henyard's personal life has become an additional source of scandal. Reports surfaced that she is facing eviction from her rental property after failing to make any payments since August. Her landlord even claimed that Henyard and her boyfriend had engaged in questionable tactics to prevent eviction proceedings. This added yet another layer to her already tarnished public image, painting her as someone disconnected from both reality and accountability. As if the financial mismanagement and personal turmoil weren't enough, Henyard's political future is now in jeopardy due to ongoing investigations into her administration's conduct. These investigations could have severe legal and political consequences for her, especially if they reveal further abuse of power or more instances of financial misconduct. With all of these issues swirling around her, Henyard's ability to maintain her hold on power is increasingly uncertain. Even if she succeeds in launching a write-in campaign, her political credibility may be too damaged for a meaningful comeback. The people of Dalton, who have been voicing their frustration for months, may no longer be willing to give her another chance. The odds are stacked against her as she faces a fierce challenge from Trustee House, and it's unclear whether Henyard can overcome the mounting pressure and scandals. At this point, Henyard's political career seems to be hanging by a thread. The damage to her reputation is so severe that many believe it may be the final chapter in her political journey. However, there are still those who argue that the caucus and the challenges she faces are part of a larger effort to silence her. Whatever the outcome, It's clear that Henyard's saga is far from over. The next chapter will no doubt reveal more twists and turns in this dramatic story. Stay tuned, because Henyard's political future is sure to unfold in unexpected ways.